Cathie Wood, Yassine, and ARK Invest, they're going all in on Bitcoin. Well, kind of. Ultimately, there's a new report out from ARK that shows how Bitcoin can get to $1 million by 2030. Let's dig into it. Yassine started out with this great tweet. He said the price of a single Bitcoin could exceed $1 million by 2030. We are still early. Now, if we go ahead and we zoom in on this exact image that they're talking about here, what they are showing is that the Bitcoin market capitalization ends up being, by the end of 2030, $28.5 trillion, $28.5 trillion. Today, that would be almost 28x from where it is at the moment. And of course, if you go ahead and you start to break down what exactly adds up to that $28.5 trillion. They think the remittance network, the emerging market currency, the economic settlement layer, the nation-state treasury, the seizure-resistant asset, the institutional investment, the corporate treasury, and the digital gold. You add all of that up, they think that it can get to $28.5 trillion. That would be the equivalent of $1.36 million per Bitcoin. Now, if you go ahead and you look at the global asset values, you can see that Bitcoin has significant appreciation potential. Ultimately, Bitcoin is very, very small. It is only $1.1 trillion or so. Gold's $10 trillion, global equities $106 trillion, global M2 supply $123 trillion, global bonds $124 trillion, and global real estate sits at $220 trillion. So Bitcoin going from 1.1 to 28.5, it's a 25.9x. That would only be about double, a little bit more than double gold. It wouldn't even get you anywhere near global equities. If we then go ahead and look at Bitcoin's market participants, and as they are maturing and focusing on the long term, you can see that Bitcoin's aggregate cost basis hit a new record high in 2021. Bitcoin's market capitalization grew by 96% in 2021, and its realized cap grew by 168%. Also, the long-term holder base hit an all-time high in 2021 as well. Those long-term holders hold about 13.5 million Bitcoin, with more than 500,000 addresses exhibiting long-term holding behavior. And then if we go ahead and we look and the actual market share, where is it stealing market share from? Well, that cumulative transfer value increased by 463% in 2021. Bitcoin's annual settlement volume surpassed Visa's payment volume. That is very important to understand here, my friends, is that Bitcoin's annual settlement volume has surpassed Visa's payment volumes. When you start to look at that, you can start to understand that regardless of what you hear in the mainstream media, regardless of what your friend, your mom, your cousin, or your neighbor told you, Bitcoin is used by lots of people around the world. It's used on an actual transaction settlement basis more than Visa is, which is an important piece to understand. And then ultimately, could Bitcoin continue to scale in response to technological breakthroughs? Cathie Wood, Yassine, and ARK, they believe that it absolutely can. There's the successful soft fork activation. There's the layer 2 growth and Bitcoin denominated DeFi, all things that continue to lead to more and more adoption, which also increases the scalability as these technologies come to fruition. And then if we go ahead and we look at the institutional holders, ladies and gentlemen, they come in and they're coming fast and furious. That institutional holder base appears to be broadening after the launch of more regulated products and adoption by corporations and nation states. You can see that Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust holds about 654,000 Bitcoin. You can see Block One and MicroStrategy both hold between 120 and 140,000 Bitcoin. You can see the CoinShares XBT provider. They've got about 48,000 Bitcoin all the way down to Galaxy Digital and their ETP. They have 16,400 Bitcoin. Ultimately, what we are watching is institutions across the market, whether they're large financial institutions, whether they're publicly traded companies, or they are providing some sort of product to their customers. They continue to adopt Bitcoin in a very real way. On top of that, lastly, El Salvador is the first nation state, on top of the institutional adoption, first nation state to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. In El Salvador, more people have Bitcoin wallets than traditional bank accounts. It's very important to understand. 1.9 million people have a traditional bank account, but 3.8, now over 4 million, it's reported, have the Chivo wallet, which is that Bitcoin wallet. So ultimately what we are watching is we are watching the adoption of Bitcoin across many different verticals, from individuals to organizations to nation states. And this is just the start of something that likely will be a decades-long trend. If that decades-long trend plays out, ARK believes, Cathie believes, and Yassine believes that it could reach as high as $28.5 trillion market cap, to be a $1.3 million Bitcoin price by 2030. There's a lot of people who say a lot of crazy numbers, but they got the data, the analysis, and the scrutiny to back up their thought process. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but it seems to be a pretty rational view of the world, in my opinion.